Okay, so this is the list that I was talking about. This is the actual full list. I hope you can see this. This is the full list that I was mentioning about the movies, okay? Let me try something real quick. Okay, so this is the list of Hollywood movies that I've today in the last couple hours thought about being useful to understand gender, and especially in the modern world. American Beauty is one of the best. Then we have these ones which I'll read right now to you, just so it's on record. They Live, Matrix, Demolition Man, Fight Club, Lawnmower Man, along with Demolition Man, Fight Club, Brazil, Life of Brian, Devil's Advocate, obviously American Beauty, if I didn't already say it, American Pie, and many other movies like American Pie, but Van Wilder, for example, but they don't really reveal too much. Brazil is, like I said, Gone with the Wind is a good example of just seeing in action what things used to be like in the old days, and not used to be like, but were was moved in that direction, in the masculine direction, instead of this deviant feminine direction we have today. The Kali Ma, she's taking my heart, yeah. But another one is Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom. A weird coincidence, right? That movie has some great flirtation scenes and stuff, I guess. And it also has a great scene about the fact of the Plato's cave and how that man, Indiana, with that little boy, another little mystery right there. But they too go down into that cave and they see what society is really like. It's poor, the most oppressed, the most weak, the poor kids are being tortured and worked to death, and just being abused. And then we have these priest class, this evil priest man who runs the whole show. And he has his helpers, obviously, and then they have the victims, obviously, too, and everybody just watches, so it's a great movie about in general, because it talks about, like, you know it tries to make it seem like it's only in India, but obviously it's a reality, because India is the first civilization in the world, Bharat, Akhand Bharat, or Mahabharat, or Bharat, whatever. Okay, so that was the first movie, American Beauty, that I already talked about. It has some great scenes. You see how the man is degraded constantly, and how the society is changing in a tyrannical direction, and how he decides to say "F it all" and just smoke pot and listen to music, work out, and eventually, come find himself, basically. So the next movie I was talking about was They Live. Now, They Live, no, Brazil, sorry. Brazil is another great movie because it shows what a futuristic society would look like, where the emotions are suppressed for the worker bees, and for the poor class, well, they're just animals, like in 1984, which is another great movie, released in 1984, to learn about gender and how it's being manipulated by the dark wizards. So 1984, which I should add here, Brazil, very similar vein. But it shows the whole feminism, which is the new thing that George Orwell didn't see back then in the 50s. But it came in the late 50s, it was planned before, it had been done before, but it came in the late 50s, and it blew everybody's mind. And that's why They Live was released in the 80s, because it was like everybody was just fed the F up with the whole nonsense. It looks like we're getting to that state now, actually. So get ready. But the next movie I wanted to talk about, for the curious minds, is Matrix, because Matrix, matter, mother, matriarchy, and so forth. Next we have the let me take some cannabis. I was gonna smoke tobacco, but maybe later. And yeah, so Matrix shows Neo that everybody's just dead, and we have that great scene with the lady in the red dress, and that great genius little young kid, again a little boy, who tells him, it's just sex and it's just impulses and it's just neurochemical nonsense. But yeah, it's about the new man, Neo Anderson, the new millennium man, hooked up in gadgets in the head. And speaking of gadgets in the head, we got Demolition Man, which was a cop who traveled into the future, and he eventually found love, and the girl took him to her home, and he whips it out, and she has headphones on and a whole VR headset, and she's like, "Hey, this is how we do things here. What is all that animalistic behavior?" Straight from Brave New World, which is another great movie available on YouTube for you to watch, just like 1984. I mean, Barbarella. I don't mention some movies, like I shouldn't have talked about Matrix because I can't really speak on it because I haven't seen it recently. But the last one I mentioned, I had it was good, but I forgot what I was saying. My refresh. Demolition Man. Yeah. So Sylvester Stallone gets to see what sex will be like in the new millennium. How exciting! Next, Lawnmower Man is another young, another guy. No, actually, it's about a young guy, kind of like the Matrix, who basically gets initiated into the mystery of VR, virtual reality, and he finds these superpowers and becomes this pimp daddy, and he kind of goes out of control afterwards. That was a brilliant movie, Lawnmower Man, and and Matrix, and They Live, and Brazil. Um, I have to watch Brazil again. I just watched it, but it was very complicated, complex, a lot going on to really think about. But yeah, you see how the mother in the movie Brazil, of the main character, the mouse guy. Um, she's like, he's like a middle-aged almost man. Well, he is a freaking quite middle-aged man, and his mother is an old woman, but she's obsessed with beauty. She's like, she spends millions of dollars just her best friend is her freaking plastic surgeon every day. She's like changing her nose or this or that. It's just remarkable. And towards the end of the movie, she becomes so young that she's even younger than him, and all these dudes are, her little dogs running around on leashes around her, and it's a great freaking movie to watch. Brazil, you will die laughing if you are a smart person who really thinks for themselves, or tries to, at least. And Fight Club had some good quotes in there. Do we really need another woman in our lives, guys? When you really see how bad you've been fucked up, just being raised in this Kali Yuga, the age of Kali. My homie got robbed one time in San Francisco, Haight Street, or Hyde Street, or Hyde Park, or whatever. And the dude above him in a tree was all like, "What's the time? You got the time?" He checked his watch, and they robbed his wallet, and cops didn't help him, so he became a rebel. But yeah, Brazil talks about the mother, and you see the gender conflict right there. It's and the political suppression of everybody, and the fucking groups of freaking thugs, rolling around. These little boys, who have been raised to be violent little nosers. Uh, so Life of Brian is also great because you see how the women fall for a man when he becomes famous, and then kind of just go along with everybody else and kind of cause him a lot more aggravation and suffering. So and then his mother too. You see how she treats him throughout the movie. That's the best. Oh my god, that movie! Those guys just make me die laughing because they're just so brilliant and beautiful stuff. So really, it is. I mean, the Bible. My best movie for the Bible would have been Life of Brian because it was intended as a